Welcome back to the game where Scotland tries to
overtake the world.
tries to save the world from the mass German threat.
And we are here with your main star, Keelan.
Keelan is my co-star. She's just sitting here.
Hey, main, I'm the star.
I'm the star.
Hey, go follow my YouTube account. It's The Night Owls. We do a lot of gaming, much better gaming than here. All right, bye. Hey.
I'll link it in the description if you want me to.
Yes. Please.
Okay, so where we left off, we were deciding: does the bill pass? Should we save the English? Should we?
Actually.
Should we? But we might lose our majority.
Brother,
the Labour Party might come up.
Brother,
What?
I have an idea. We will use them. We will keep them to the end. Get everything they can give us. Be really nice to them. Until the end, and then we will kill them all.
If we want to, if we want to take over Britain, we go. It fails. If we want to work with Britain, then we go. It passes.
You see, we want to use them so that we can get stuff from them.
But what if we just take them?
Riley, we can't take over them yet. We have to wait till the end.
It would hurt our relations.
Riley, we have to wait till the end, so we must make it pass.
First, let's read this paper. Another day in Parliament. A bill had been brought to the very floors of the Scottish Parliament. On the floor, only two parties rule, the Scottish National Party and their rival, the Independent Labour Party. Both share Scottish nationalism, but have differing viewpoints on the country's procedures. This is what the officer sitting on the viewing area was writing down in his journal to hand to his superiors. The officer personally hated the boring procedures of government and would much rather be out in the Highlands, training or running war games. Alas, he was stuck watching and taking notes. The bill on the floor was to provide to the English minority that had fled to Scotland the last few days of the Second World War, after the United Kingdom fell apart under the yoke of the German war machine. The SNP was against this bill, citing security reasons. What if one of the Anglos had an allegiance to the collaborators, and now was receiving an extra flow of money to finance them? This officer wrote this down. The Grand Marshal will sure like this, he thought to himself. The ILP fired back, saying that if Scotland wants to become more unified, they need to start by helping the Anglo population and gain support. The officer remembered that the ILP had been fighting a losing war against the SNP for the last 10 years. The leader of the opposition, William Wolfe, was a former member of the SNP. He left due to a disagreement about Labour parties. The officer wrote down the name and circled it. The discussion went on a few more hours until Parliament broke for lunch. At this point, the officer was allowed to leave and head back to barracks. He was relieved he was able to leave. Another officer would come in and take the notes for the last part of the session. The officer would just need to deliver his notes. A day adjourned.
Okay, brother. I need to have a conversation.
We still... Okay. You need to...
What? I need to have a conversation with you.
Oh.
So, see, who has the most money in this situation? And who can we use for units and stuff? Stuff that we need. Alright? Because...
It'd make it a lot easier on us if we could somehow convince the British to turn against the Germans. But we're rolling a die with that.
Because then they might be like, heck no, and they kill us.
And then they might be like, heck no, I like my German friend. You know, he's like, I have good beer. And I'm like, oh my god, it's the same. You know, like, that's them right now.
I knew you were German.
No, it's making an impersonation. So, this is our choice. So, once we read this, oh my god.
When did you learn German?
So, when we read this, we have to choose the SNEP passes the bill, or the SNP stands strong.
But wait, what happens if we pass it?
So if we pass the bill is passed. While this is a defeat for our government, we'll need to implement it and oversee the subsidies and programs so that they can achieve their result. This will undoubtedly strengthen the ILP and weaken our majority. We need to reduce the damage and strengthen our majority and try to ensure that no political instability follows this debacle.
Brother.
Yes.
Tell me in your own words what will happen if we pass it, okay?
If we pass it, Danny DeVito might lose his seat. Like, the Labour Party might take over the next election, and then Danny DeVito, he's gone.
Okay, we're refusing now. Like, we can't lose Danny
That's
DeVito.
true, I forgot.
We can't lose him.
We can't lose him. So already we're going to pick this. But let's read this. The Unionists had a recent underdog addition to the political landscape of Scotland. Led by Priscilla Buchanan, the party was determined to reform a United Kingdom in some way. Reform a United Kingdom in some way. The party was seen as a laughingstock. Shut up. Always supporting causes that supported the displaced population or causes that could benefit reunification. As SNAP ILP had duked it over the bill, the Unionists took a high ground in the situation. The MP had prepared for a great speech for the Parliament, talking about how help they would give to the poor and homeless of Scotland would help out the future. The MP ranted on and on about how they would need help the disenfranchised if the dream of the United Kingdom is realized. Other MPs simply scoffed at this notion. The Unionists ignored them and continued her speech. William Wolfe looked at his watch and was starting to be bored by the speech by the Unionists. It seemed she had been trying to attempt a filibuster and tire out the other members of Parliament. Then the speech ended, and the Unionist walked back to her seat near the other members of the Unionist Party. It was annoying the more nationalist members of Parliament that had a group that could jeopardize the very situation of Scotland, independence and freedom. The Unionists had thought they'd done a job well done and had hopefully gotten some members of the ILP who had Union sympathies to vote for the bill instead of attempting to kill it. The bill would be voted on soon. The SNP and some members of the ILP hoped it would be killed and they wouldn't need to listen to another long speech about how it would help the nation as a whole. Some of the ILP and the UP hoped it would pass. This could be a turning point for the Unionists and reunification. Do we want to reunify or do we want to be Scotland forever?
Tell me in your own...
I kind of want to reunify. England? That sounds epic.
With England?
It sounds cool.
With who?
We want to reunify like the entire British Isles. We want this one country. Maybe with Scotland with more freedom than it did in the original.
Okay, but since that person,
Danny DeVito,
they're both allies to Germany.
Yes, but we could convince them. Maybe they want to. Maybe. Do you ever think if they want to be under the German rule? What if they don't want to? What if Scotland going, hey, Mike, what if we, become really close friends and, became,
Why don't we take over Germany?
We can't take over, dude, do we want to take over Germany? We need to have all this controlled. And the only way we can unite a United Kingdom if they believe in us and they think we have the best intentions.
We need to get those people to the left.
I'm saying we pass the bill.
We're gonna lose Danny though.
But we might not lose Danny. He just might. Danny might not be lost.
But Danny.
I don't know if I can lose Danny.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, you know what? I'm passing.
No, we're gonna lose Danny.
We're not gonna lose Danny. You're gonna lose Danny.
You're gonna lose.
Robert, no, don't tell me about him. Walked into his dear friend's room. President McCormick had been extremely sick recently and was bedridden. Upon noticing Robert, McCormick tried getting out of bed to shake his hand, but Robert told him to stay. He pulled up a chair to John and then pulled out a bottle of whiskey as a gift. It was from John smiled and then laughed. I cannot believe it's been nearly 20 years since we started our own nation. John said as Robert poured out drinks for them. Robert smiled at him and then asked John a question. Say, you heard of a bill passing through Parliament? The LP brought it onto the floor. It was supposed to be voted out today. Is it a proposal to give funding to the refugees who have fled here? John's smile changed to a resting sigh. He remarked that this could disrupt Scotland forever, but this could help them legitimacy-wise. Haven't you talked to Marshall Wimberley recently? John asked this to Robert. Shut up. And McCormick had always been a special relationship. It was two of them who helped make Scotland the country it was today. Robert asked why, and John replied, "He came to visit me. More on edge than normal. I think his age is getting to him." Robert laughed. "I think it's all getting to us, my friend."
So did we lose Robert or not?
A toast to Scotland.
Did we lose Robert?
No, Robert's not dead, but his friend might be. He might go to.
But what about Robert? Are we gonna lose Robert or not?
Wolves in sheep clothing. William Wolfe fell out of his comfort zone. He had received complaints recently from members within the ILP how the members who are harboring unionist sympathies have been turned hostile recently to the other members of the party. William, being the leader of the party, would need to sort out this out himself. He sighed and walked out of the room. You cannot just block support for the English who came here. You're no better than the fascists, one unionist berated. Another member of the ILP who had turned beet red in anger, he was about to fire back before Wolfie stepped in. Gentlemen, there's no reason why we should be arguing. I'm sure we all want to help the refugees, but we all have different methods.
Hold on.
Said this and then looked at the two men arguing. The unionists then shot an insult towards Wolfie. You are nothing more than a man who harbors SNP ideas and puts a mask of a man who supports their people. Unionists then adjusted his tie, William himself, and started to get annoyed, and then screamed back at the unionists. The unionists then turned to William. It seems that you harbor no feelings for Scotland's poor. The unionist turned away and was about to walk away before Wolfie grabbed his shoulder and told him they would work this out. Whether he killed it or not, the unionist sighed and sat down and discussed with him. It's going to be a long night, William, he thought to himself. It's like talking to yourself. Oh my God.
Did we lose Danny or not?
The SNP passes the bill. Oh my God.
Better not lose Danny or I'm going to kill you.
Oh my God. Mrs. Priscilla Bushin had always walked into the meeting room with a smile on her face. She seemed to always be positive. A negative thought could always be turned into a positive for her. As she walked into the meeting room, she sensed something was amiss. To her dismay, there was a clear rift between some of the unionists. The mood in the entire room felt tense. It was as if a catastrophe had occurred. She asked them to sit at a table and try to talk out their differences. After an hour of discussion, she learned the issue. There was a divide between the group that was more conservative than there was interventionists, and a group that was liberal but wanted to achieve the unionism through negotiation. She had a frown on her face. This group of interventionists had been known for a while inside the party and had proven to be great allies. However, this development of them pushing very heavy for this was new and troubled Priscilla. She then asked them for the future to more accepting of each other and the opinions of each other. They are a party of unionists who want to reform Great Britain. How can they be a union if there was a rift between them? She was nervous. The very foundation of the Unionist Party was built by helping each other and being united for a common cause. Whatever the issue was, however, she thought she could use it to her advantage. The members of the Unionist Party had met once again, and this time relations had seen a bit better. Priscilla smiled. It seemed she had sealed a rift for the time being. Now it seems there is some work that we need to do, she says, as this is smiling, confident they are united. The union always finds a way. The SNP passes the bill. The members of the SNP discussed the bill. One of them, Benjamin O'Donnell, was nervous. This was a bill that seemed to cause a split between down the lines of party. O'Donnell was like a new addition to the SNP Parliament, and in general, this was his first time he had seen a member of the UP speak so clearly and with such energy. As he waited the leader of the SNP to walk in, his mind wandered on the future and past of Scottish politics. The ILP, the main rival of the SNP, and had been reinvigorated by William Wolfe, rising to become the leader of the opposition, and the ILP being the second post-popular party. There was another, however. This was the UP. This group had seemingly come out of nowhere. Before O'Donnell could think more about this, the leader of the SNP came and asked the members to record their votes. You could hear other members of the party grumble about how this could empower the Unionists further past. About how this could empower the Unionists. Some spoke loudly how this could ruin Scotland's economy. However, a small committee group convinced them with a speech to the MPs. This bill would help Scotland's economy and help them pay taxes and make contributions to the Republic. This motion got some head nods and some talks of agreement. Then the last call for votes was called. O'Donnell stood and marked the vote before putting it into the box. It had been late. The Parliament had been adjourned. O'Donnell walked into his car thinking if he made a good decision. Parliament was called the next day to discuss the bill. To the amazement of the whole building, it had passed by a slim margin. The UOP and the LLP cheered in excitement, as now the disfranchised of Scotland would be helped. O'Donnell couldn't help but smile. I love democracy. It passes. Military funding bill. The Scottish Army, especially Marshal Douglas Wimberry, had been lobbying for... We have another decision to make, Keelan.
Oh God, what is it?
The military funding bill. Grievances and drafted a bill to increase the Army's forces of funds and ensure our nation can be ready for anything should our southern neighbors decide to pay us a visit. Of course, the ILP is campaigning against it and threatening to block the parliament until they are listened. As it was, we have two choices in front of us. Either we pass the bill as it is and face a fierce opposition, or we try to find a compromise with the left, reducing the overall budget but ensuring a smooth travel.
Whatever it is, we need to.
Dang to be... Oh my God.
What?
Another one.
Stop being German. You are not German.
It was a nice day, the sun was out, and there was a full regiment of recruits running the ropes course. The Grand Marshal couldn't help but smile at the sight of the Scottish Army. The 51st Highlanders, the pride of the army, had been in pristine condition. He inspected them himself this morning. As he was walking down the observation platform, he noticed a younger officer walk up to him. His hat was out of place, and his uniform had been a bit of dirt on the bottoms. He ignored it for the time being. Wimberly then remembered that his boy he sent to watch and take notes of the current parliament. The officer walked up to the marshal, saluted, and handed him the note. Wimberly asked about how the ILP and the UP had been doing. The officer said they had been outnumbered by the SNP, but just a bit, but maybe some of the SNP members could vote for the current bill. Wimberly scoffed and then dismissed the officer. He looked at the letter and then laughed to himself. He then handed it to an aide. He asked it to be filed away with one of the many folders he had put on political parties of Scotland. He at firing the very weapons that would protect Scotland. He recently visited his friend John McCormick, the current president of Scotland. He had ruled the country for nearly 20 years, and he was deathly sick. He had ruled the country, dead sick at the moment. It hurt Wimberly that one of his brothers-in-arms was bedridden. He and John formed the country together. Wimberly, however, cleared his mind and walked over to one of the privates on the range. He gave the lad a few tips on how to fire the rifle more efficiently. As he was handling it, he noticed chipping on it inside. He would need to write another letter requesting funds for the army. Another day, another letter. Okay. Whew. This is a tough one. They want to get motorized equipment, anti-tank equipment, and an IFV. I don't have enough for all that, man. Couldn't deploy.
Get the tank thing only.
Scottish Home Guard. Everything needs anti-tank equipment. Production. Where are you? So we need. I don't know. Economy. Civilian spending. Instruction. Okay. Hey, Keelan.
Yes. What?
You ready?
For what?
Scotland's about to go into another. It's diving in. Oh God! I gotta stop reading those.
Well, I'm not reading them. I'm just closing my eyes while I listen.
Yeah, I gotta get immersed though into the Scottish story. Okay, what's the hell's going on in China? I've been seeing a lot of notifications. Oh, okay, China's a mess. What's Japan doing? Ensure continued prosperity. So, Keelan, we have these are the factions. Okay, let's look at the factions. Hold up. There's Italy. Italy's Mediterranean faction. The Arab League, I didn't know they existed. You got the Unity Pact, aka Germany's huge faction.
What's the faction?
You got the Organization of Free Nations, which is basically Nixon's attempt to not die.
What's the faction?
What?
What's the faction?
We got the Coke Prosperity Sphere, aka Japan's Asia faction.
What's a faction?
What's a faction? Like an alliance. So then the Unity Pact is the German faction.
Why do I see so much camouflage on that screen?
And then you got the Italian Mediterranean faction. Then we got the Americas. America, fuck yeah!
Alright, let's go.
Back to Scotland. Oh my god. Okay. Wimberley's request. Prime Minister McKendry, aka ya boy, what is it? Danny DeVito had just been delivered to the mall for a day during lunch. He had looked through it at his desk before noticing a letter from the Grand Marshal, Douglas Wimberley. It was another plea for more funding. The weapons that they had been supplying the recruits had been in terrible condition. He opened the letter and read it. Your Excellency, I hope the letter reaches you in good health. Like my many other letters that had been received, I am once again asking for financial support. Bernie meme. Our men who are willing to put down their lives to protect Scotland from the collaborators in the South are training with decade-old equipment. What is a good soldier without a good weapon? I do ask you that you propose a bill to Parliament discussing the raising of the national defense budget. Our future and livelihood depend on the very circumstances of this bill. Grand Marshal Douglas Wimberley. Prime Minister sighed, and this was the second time this month he had received a letter from Wimberley. If there was something Wimberley had, it was away with words, he thought. He tossed the idea of funding around his head. The words, our future and livelihood depend on the very circumstances of this bill, echoed in his head. He called some of his advisors to discuss the issue. After taking an impromptu vote, they decided they would put the bill through the system on increasing military funding for our future. Or we get to choose if the bill passes or compromise. So this would give even more concessions to the ILP. Kind of want the Unionists to exist. Because those are guys like I kind of want to get. You're dead. In the end, the most sensible choice was to find a compromise, so we did. The ILP asked for a large reduction in the future budget, but we countered it with a smaller one. In the end, we have settled on a proposal which grants an increase in funds in the army, but half of what Wimberley said. As expected, the law passed smoothly despite some grumbling from the army. No one can really complain about it. After all, the opposition got its recognition and the army got its funds. Two birds with one stone on the way forward. I think we're going to go compromise. Compromise institution. Anger in Parliament. So we either get a compromise or only one deal. William Wolfe stared at the document that had been placed in front of him. His jaw had dropped. He couldn't believe the audacity of the SNP. They had just proposed a bill that would increase the budget once again. It had been less than a year since this was last proposed. Across the floor, Francisca Butchman had the same reaction, but was already thinking of ways to use this. After a few hours, William Wolfe had been talking to fellow MPs and some of the members of the UP who had agreed to collaborate with the ILP as the leader of the opposition. He made a speech that announced the funding of the military, called it a gross overreach to the rights established for the Constitution. He then asked the leader of the majority from the SNP to tell him where the funding had been acquired from. The leader of the majority didn't answer him. Wolfe was dumbfounded. He wondered if the SNP would bend the knee to the army so easily. He then walked off the stand after speaking time was done, and Priscilla Bridgeton walked up. She retaliated. She reiterated many of the same points of the ILP, but she said she pledges to use the money from the bill if it fails to help the people of Scotland even more. She gets a lot of nods and whispers of the agreement from the rows of seats. During the speech, Wolfe had paid half attention and had collected himself. During this, he was considering offering a compromise to the SNP about the bill. He agreed on the facts about the army. Maybe he could receive a compromise that half the funding is achieved. He reminded his subordinates that the army's primary defense of Scotland, so the bill would protect them. Some of the ILP members hadn't agreed with him on this action and had planned to vote to abstain. William hoped they could come back to their wits and help him with the compromise. The future. Despite a rough start and the lingering issues plaguing our nation, namely the Germans and their collaboratist puppets in the South, our government is running better than expected. The people are happy about the Scottish National Party, and our popularity is rising steadily. We don't know what the future will reserve for us. or challenges much bigger than we will ever come to us. But for now, we can give ourselves a well-deserved pat on the back. Scotland will grow. It's only a matter of time and effort. And I think that's where we're going to leave it off for this video. Oh, no. So we're going to read this, and then we're probably going to end it right here. Wimberley had done his morning inspection as usual. While some would have disliked the boring, almost mechanical routine, he loved it. It gave him a sense of pride to see the army in a stable condition. He didn't like the condition the equipment was in, however. Then a letter from the Edinburgh addressed to Wimberley that the Armed Forces staff, it had not come bearing the news of increased funding. Only half the funding was given to the army. Wimberley was disappointed with the news. This could only be used to help equip most of the incoming soldiers, but not all of them. If that had gotten the increased funding, the army could have afforded to use it to buy more tank repair equipment for the boys in the armored corps. He sighed and balled the letter up in his hand, not before giving the note to his aide, asking when it be filled once again. He then attempted to finish his routine without thinking about the funding, but could only focus on it. Once his walk was over, however, he went back to his office to type another letter to use to the Prime Minister. It had started to annoy him about all the blocking by the ILP and UP. No good leftists, he thought. The bastards in the UP, they had been willing to throw the country away just so they could try to reform the United Kingdom. It made him laugh. It was childish. Fantasy that Great Britain could be reformed. He preferred it that way anyways. The Marshal wrote his letter, an official complaint, and sent it off with a truck heading to Edinburgh. Then he was off to his midday inspection. Routine is normal. The armed forces will become more unhappy because of this. Oh no, I don't want an uprising. Okay, so I think this is gonna give us a new focus tree. So once the feature's done, oh my god. Oh. Keelan? Danny DeVito's friend's dead. D. DeVito. He's crying. You can see a tear roll down his eye. Long anticipated, the day has finally come. The president's secretary entered his office with his morning cup of tea, only to find him slumped over his papers. Unresponsive, President John McCormick was rushed to the hospital, only to be pronounced dead on arrival of heart failure. The nation mourns today with one voice. President McCormick was respected by all, leading Scotland out of the troubled times of the war, taking its first fleeting steps alone for centuries. John first turned to his path with the formation of Glasgow University, Scottish Nationalist Association, and it was who led the merger with the Scottish Party to form the Scottish Nationalist Party, which still dominates politics today. While President McCormick's responsibilities have been reduced recently in the light of his advanced age, the party will greatly miss their founding leader, who acted as a symbol of unity for the entire nation. There's a good reason that it was once joked, Scotland will be a kingdom, and John McCormick will be our king. Scotland's first president will be honored with a full state funeral, a military parade through the streets of Edinburgh, and finally a 21-gun salute when he reaches his final resting place. Godspeed. The king is dead. Minus 25 political power. Gain base stability. Changes the national focus to SCO start. West. Oh. Oh no. The king is dead. Grief and sorrow. John McCormick is dead. The founder, the first leader of our nation, had passed away, and with him much of our political capital. With the SNP and the wider political spectrum, his mere presence inspired respect and loyalty to the nation. With his death not even 2 decades after independence, things are sure to heat up. Without doubt, the party is bound to go into a frenzy as the current and minor members realign themselves and find a new balance. This will grant opposition, and especially the Unionists, an opportunity to undermine their efforts. An evening of television. But that is where we're going to have to leave it off. You'll have to wait till the next episode to see Vultures on the Corpse, or our only option. What does that mean? I don't know. Find out. See you later.
両手広げてもっと前進しよう顔を上げて つも全力で